People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. On the show tonight, Reform MP Sarah Pochin hosted a discussion in Parliament this week looking at the dangers of Sharia councils in the UK, especially to women's rights. I'll be joined by two people who spoke at that event. I'll look back at the events at the Oxford Union on Wednesday when hundreds of protesters disrupted a debate about Islam involving Tommy Robinson and GB News' very own Jacob Rees-Mogg. Also, we'll be hearing from the artist who was barred from her own exhibition and reported to the police for her views on children going through gender transition. And after all the recent talk about two-tier policing and anti-white racism, we'll discuss a shock new report that says the Equality Act should be scrapped. And we've got comedians answering some crazy culture developments from our live studio audience. But first, the news with Sophia Wensler.
Josh, thank you and good evening. Your headlines at 7 o'clock. Donald Trump has said Sir Keir Starmer will resign as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Taking to Truth Social, the US President said Sir Keir failed badly on immigration and energy. It comes amid reports Sir Keir Starmer will step down as Prime Minister as early as tomorrow in the wake of Andy Burnham's win in Makerfield. Speaking to GB News this morning, the Business Secretary, Peter Kyle, refused to rule out the possibility that the Prime Minister would resign on Monday.
I rule out it's not going to rain in London tomorrow. You know, I'm not going to do the ifs and buts. I'm a Secretary of State speaking on behalf of government. But what I can say is that, you know, he is making decisions based on what he believes was in the best interests of the country.
Sir Keir Starmer has said he will fight any potential leadership challenge, while Number 10 said this morning his position is unchanged and the Prime Minister is getting on with the job. US and Iranian officials have started direct talks in Switzerland after signing an initial agreement to end the war last week. US Vice President J.D. Vance said we've made great progress in the last few hours. It comes as the Iranian military said it had closed the Strait of Hormuz again over Israel's attacks on southern Lebanon, something the US disputes. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has threatened to hit Iran very hard again if it does not stop its proxies in Lebanon. The train driver who died in the train crash near Bedford has been named as Sean Burton. It comes as Network Rail said the fatal train crash that left 100 injured was a tragic, isolated incident. The company announced rail services will be disrupted until June the 28th, while a complex recovery operation to remove the damaged trains and carriages from the track continues. 28 people remain in hospital, with 9 of them in a critical condition after 2 East Midlands railway services to London St Pancras collided on Friday evening. The UK looks set for the hottest June on record. A 4-day extreme heatwave warning has been issued for Britain as the country braces for record-breaking temperatures this week. The Met Office said the heat is expected to peak at about 38 degrees on Tuesday and Wednesday, sparking travel warnings, health alerts and concerns for vulnerable people. The Prince of Wales has been praised as the best papa in the world by his wife and children as they celebrate his 44th birthday and Father's Day. Kensington Palace shared an image of Prince William with Princess Charlotte at Trooping the Colour to mark the occasion, telling him, "We love you very much." Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Josh.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. The world has gone mental and we're doing our very best to fix it. On tonight's show, a former Prime Minister once called the Oxford Union the last bastion of free speech. Find out why that was not the case this week. I'll tell you why a controversial trans activist organisation could go bankrupt thanks to Donald Trump. We'll talk about the high street chain that seems to care more about what you think than selling you its products. And of course, myself and my fantastic comedians will be answering some questions from our wonderful studio audience. But first, the contentious topic of Sharia councils in the UK reached Parliament this week. A roundtable meeting hosted by the Reform MP Sarah Pochin, who says that by allowing Sharia courts to exist, the state is effectively sponsoring the abuse of women. Proponents of Sharia law argue that it's a comprehensive framework of ethical living, justice and community equity. And is it worth noting that forced marriage is legal in the UK and seems to be a form, or is seen as a form of domestic abuse officially? Well, Rafe, Haydel, Mankoo and Khadija Khan both spoke at the meeting in Parliament and they join us now. Big round of applause, please. It's funny. Rafe, I'll start with you. People bring up kind of Sharia law, and I don't think they really understand what the Sharia courts are, how many there are in the UK. And it's interesting going along to this talk because I never appreciated the kind of threat to women's rights that it represents.
Yeah, so Sharia law basically is a medieval system of law based upon interpretations of the Quran, the Hadith, which are the sayings of Muhammad and what other scholars have said. And they're used to govern things like the criminality, the inheritance law, family law, all sorts of things which normally you would expect the one British law or the law in England and Wales to look after. And unfortunately, it's being used as a tool of oppression and victimization and abuse of women. And I would say it is the single greatest threat to women's rights in this country is Sharia law. We've had terrible cases of women being told to go back to their abusive husbands. They've condoned wife beating. They've said that there's no such thing as marital rape, that a man can do whatever he wants to his wife. Women have lost custody of their children because under Sharia law, custody goes to the father, not to the mother. Inheritance rights, also women get less. It's a very, very, very... people say, well, it has no legal force or authority in the country. That doesn't matter because within those communities, women are pressured by culture, by community and by society to get involved and obey these rulings. And amazingly, Channel 4 found that 60 to 80% of Muslim marriages in this country are not civilly registered. They're purely Sharia law. So a woman has no recourse to the state to help her out in these situations. And I would say we've had, 25 years, 30, 40 years of politicians proudly talking about women's rights and passing laws to defend women, embracing the Me Too movement, whilst willfully turning a blind eye to the oppression and abuse of Muslim women in this country, which I think is a national scandal.
Absolutely. Well, Khadija, you yourself, I mean, you grew up in a Muslim country in Pakistan. Coming over to the UK, do you see that hypocrisy that Rafe's talking about, how supposedly this is, we live in a society of women's rights and women's equality, yet these systems parallel are allowed to exist?
I mean, as Rafe said, that these Sharia councils, they are not court. They hold no statutory authority under the British law and they cannot override UK legislation. But in reality, they work actually as religious courts where decisions are made, and these decisions are entirely based on Islamic laws, tradition and ritual, which are inherently discriminatory and unjust toward women and girls. In Islamic jurisprudence, how it is practiced in these Sharia councils, a man can get divorced by easily saying 3 times, talaq, 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 divorce, 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 and he can obtain divorce paper quite conveniently from the concerned authorities, unlike Muslim women. The Muslim Law Sharia Council UK's website clearly states that only husband has the right of talaq, means divorce, unless stated otherwise in marriage contracts. Now, it is widely known phenomena within the community that Muslim women, they are discouraged to determine their right to get divorced in marriage contracts because it is deemed immodest and it is deemed not respectable enough for a noble lady to think of divorce before entering the marriage. And then there is a khula, which is women-initiated divorce process. And this process entirely determined by the mutual agreement between the husband and the panel of Sharia judges. And if they don't reach unanimous decision, then women are advised to go back to their husbands. Then there are women who complain. I mean, these are the cases that have been reported in mainstream media, that when women, they complain about men having multiple wives, then they are lectured by Muslim clerics about the scientific, biological reasons for polygamy and are forced to accept living in polygamous form of marriages. And then, as Rafe said, that child custody, it is always granted to men, regardless of the circumstances. Now, these these decisions are made under the banner of Sharia panel judgments. And needless to say that these laws, these practices, these traditions are at odds with the British law, which mandate equality for men and women. And ironically, some of these practices have been banned in Muslim-majority countries, such as triple talaq and the ritual of halala, in which a divorced Muslim woman, she has to marry another man and sleep with him to get back to her first husband. But it is still in practice here in Britain. I think evidence after evidence from the UK and elsewhere in Europe has shown that these religious arbitration bodies function primarily as a means of exercising control over women's sexuality and autonomy. I think these laws, these are anti-women laws, and they have no place in modern-day Britain.
Yeah, well, this is it. They've got no place. They don't fit into the values that we hold within a Western liberal democracy, yet they very much are in place, right? And I believe that the actual number of these Sharia councils is growing, and we don't know how many there are. We have no oversight of them.
This is what's scandalous. Britain is the birthplace of modern liberty, and to think in the 21st century, Britain is now the Western leader of Sharia. We are called the Sharia capital of the Western world. People from the Muslim community here go to Canada and elsewhere to set up Sharia councils there. And we don't know how many of these councils there are. We've been told 85 for years, but it's many, many more than that. And this is the key thing. There is no one thing called Sharia law. The Sunnis have their version, the Shia have their version, then you've got all of these different tangents. Actually, what Sharia law is, it's up to whatever the scholar or the imam who's adjudicating that day, whatever he decides.
It's usually quite conservative.
Law. And they're invariably ultra-conservative. They've been extremists. Some of you may remember Anjem Chowdhury, the great terrorist who was put into prison for his support for ISIS. A woman was referred to him for Sharia justice. I mean, this is a sort of perverted system that we have here. It is a barbaric system that has no place in the 21st century. I find it remarkable. We're in an era of doing such great leap forwards for humanity with AI, quantum computing, driverless cars, and people are still having to live their lives according to such a barbaric practice whereby women lose custody of their children, and of course we have forced marriage, child marriage, cousin marriage, all sanctioned.
All in the name of religious rights. And as Rafe said, that there is no way you can scrutinize the proceeding of the Sharia Council, because there is no version of Sharia, how it is practiced in the Sharia Council. And it is actually out of question to regulate these Sharia councils, because the UK Home Office, they have already rejected a proposal to regulate these Sharia councils in 2018. And if you talk about self-regulating, that when prominent female Muslim politicians, they give us lectures about how Sharia councils can coexist with British law, or how we should engage constructively with Sharia council and Sharia council proceedings. I think it's a hope against hope. So how we are going to scrutinize proceedings of Sharia councils when there is no mechanism whereby we can do that? So I think these politicians, these authorities, they need to stop walking on eggshells. They need to stop tiptoeing around this issue. They need to stop being complacent about religious misogyny, religious prejudice and bigotry toward women and girls. This has no place in modern-day Britain, where we proudly uphold the principle of gender equality.
Well, this is it. Do we proudly? I mean, it's meant to be. We're meant to live in a system that says one law for all. Arguably, this is a threat to our very constitution, as well as being a threat to, not a threat to women's rights. As we've seen, there are many examples of this actively taking away women's rights. But it's also a threat to our constitution. What is the answer here? Because, I mean, you have, I believe in Manchester, was it, they actually put out a government-paid role for a portal to run with the government's Department of Work and Pensions, and it was Sharia law administrator. So it's not like the government are taking seemingly any steps to actually get on top of this. It's more that they just want to kind of accommodate it.
Well, the next time someone tries to blindly dismiss this idea that there's two-tier justice in Britain, just answer with that one word, Sharia, because that really just point out exactly what's happening in this country. And you're absolutely right. There needs to be ways to enforce this. So, for example, we have the highest number in the whole of the Western world of Muslim women who are married without any civil registration of their marriage. That should become a criminal offence. If you have a Sharia marriage but no civil registration, that should be a criminal offence. No benefits, right? A lot of these communities depend upon benefits, because this is also a national security issue as well as a constitutional issue. There should be one law in this country, one law in England and Wales, one law in Scotland, one law in Northern Ireland. Everybody is equal under the law. And what are we saying? Are we saying that all women are not entitled to the same legal protections, that all women aren't entitled to equal justice under the law? But crucially, of course, we know that segregated communities, Muslims who live in those communities are more likely, far more likely to support terrorism and extremism. So Sharia is a way of actually enforcing and enabling people to live a separate lifestyle from mainstream Britain. So we need to view it as a security threat and a threat to our democracy, not just as a women's rights issue, of course, which it also is. And I think it doesn't get anywhere near enough attention along those lines.
Well, finally...
It's just one thing, that any system that is based on Sharia can never grant women equal rights. That is why progressive movement in Muslim-majority countries, they are moving away from Sharia and embracing liberal democratic laws, such as in Tunisia. They have passed a law that permits women and men equal share in inheritance. Female politicians in Pakistan, they are trying and striving to raise age of marriage for girls to 18 years, and these things are in stark contrast with Islamic laws, but it is still happening in Muslim-majority countries. If it is happening there, I don't see any reason why these questions regarding marriage, divorce, child custody, polygamy, and other cultural form of harm cannot be determined by one law, that is British law, and not by so-called religious laws.
Well, that seems to be the answer. And very quickly, Rafe, is in terms of, like, we've got the Beth Din, which is and a lot of people go, well, what about the Beth Din? The Jewish community has that. I think there's 3 of them in the UK. And they essentially deal with marriages, by the way, which you have to get married by civil law before they actually will then grant the religious marriage. But also it operates under the condition that the law of the land is the law. That's a very explicit thing to say, and also with everything goes within the sort of secular bounds of the Arbitration Act of 1996. This is how the Beth Din operates. Is that like the first step for these? First of all, I guess that these Sharia councils need to be identified, and secondly, that there needs to be this put forward legislation that they operate under the law of the land.
Yeah, fundamentally, that needs to be the case. I don't think there should be any Sharia law in the country. I just think the time has come when we need to assert the primacy of British culture and British law. We need to have one umbrella identity that brings all people together. But at the same time, yes, and I think there should be things like hotlines for women to call to be able to report, because that's the problem. It's like a multi-headed hydra. We don't know how many of these Sharia councils there are. We need women to feel brave enough that they can anonymously report who is taking part in these and where these things are actually happening.
Absolutely. Well, a government spokesman said there is one law for all of the UK and Sharia law has no jurisdiction. This government is committed to tackling all forms of abuse and violence against women and girls while ensuring our legal system is fair for everyone. And in regards to the Manchester Sharia law administrator role, the employer was an independent-based charity, not a government role, which was pulled following a backlash. A big round of applause, please, to our 2 guests, Rafe and Khadija. Later this evening, I'll be talking to the co-author of a new report which calls for the Equality Act to be ripped up. But next on Free Speech Nation, our comedians are going to join us in the studio for this week's hottest culture questions. Don't go away. See you in 2 minutes.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Rafe.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My comedian guest this evening is Stephen Allen and Cressida Wetton. There we go. We're all having a dance in the break there. Well, look, let's get on with the questions from our audience. Our first one's from Annette.
Evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I actually thought that I was going to answer this. I didn't realise I was asking you the question, to be honest. I got it the wrong way round.
That's okay. Thank you for giving it. No. It's a good thing it's very subtle.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Andy Burnham being the next Prime Minister?
Yeah, Andy Burnham being the next Prime Minister. I mean, it's obviously nothing set in stone yet.
Yeah.
It could be Rachel Reeves. very, oh God, with big fan base there. Yeah. It's not going to be Rachel Reeves.
I don't know. I was wanting to know what you think about it. Since you've prepared your essay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny it was that question because as a journalist, I've
actually been studying him for quite some time.
Okay.
And I actually no, seeing what he does actually do, and I have faith that he will do the job very well.
You know what? I'm really glad that we went back to you because that sort of covers us for Ofcom. What we're about to say.
As long as that hat that goes on called Prime Minister doesn't change him, because once they get that hat going on, you know, if he can keep that...
I don't think that Keir Starmer's been wearing that as a hat, more probably around his waist region. I don't know what that means, to be honest.
I don't know what that means.
Surely anything's going to be better than
wearing
Keir
it
Starmer.
at all. Yes, well, I do think that. I think Andy Burnham's a bit more human, isn't he? But
I am human.
Everything he says is extremely orchestrated, isn't it?
Yeah.
To every cent, you could ask him to make you some toast, and he'd find a way of explaining how he's going to make the toast locally and not thinking about the future of the toast. And
Do you know, I thoroughly disagree, though, because you don't know which Andy Burnham you've got. You've got the Tony Blair one, the Gordon Brown one, the absolutely love Corbyn one, the upping Manchester and then don't care about Manchester. You've got the one who's trying to win a local election versus what he said when he was trying to win the mayoral seat. So who knows what it'll be? I don't think we know which hat. But he's a fully Mr. Ben, isn't he? He changes the hat and the person just changes entirely. So I don't know whether he's going to be good or bad. I have no idea who we're getting.
Do you think that Wes Streeting has a chance? I mean, he kind of threw his hat in the ring first, which is always a kind of poison chalice.
I think mathematically, no. The only reason this is all going to work is if Burnham turns up with so many people backing him that Starmer goes, all right, I can do the maths, I can't do anything, which then also means Wes Streeting won't either. So, it's no chance.
And we don't actually know that the word is that Keir Starmer's going to resign tomorrow. But he might just be clinging on, find out what's going to happen in the next 24 hours.
The tweet didn't actually specify a time or a date, so we don't really know.
Just as long as it's not in the next 2 hours. I've worked really hard on this show. I don't want to jettison it, OK? We've got important things we've got to talk about.
Well, if I was Starmer, I would do it on a Sunday night. No one would expect that, would they?
OK.
Sneak out.
Yeah, just like this. Guys, I'm just going to pop to the off licence. See ya.
Well, unless he watches this, which I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
He's going to do it just to mess me up. This is the...
You've earned it, Josh.
I think so. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. Well, look, our next question is from Sean.
OK, a different topic to the one we've just had. Why are Scottish prisons ignoring the law?
Yeah, why are Scottish prisons ignoring the law? The Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling says she is prepared to bankroll legal action against the SNP government over its prisons policy. It follows a court ruling that housing biological males in women's jails was unlawful, and the Scottish government says it is considering the implications of the judgment. So this is insane, Cressida. Basically, anybody who watches the show, anybody who's got eyes and ears know that men and women are different. But in law, it's been very clearly stated that women deserve women's-only spaces. Then, for Women Scotland, who are this amazing organisation of just very normal human beings, have taken the Scottish government to court to say, get women out of prisons. And the most insane thing is that then the Scottish Prison Service said, well, yeah, you're right, we're breaking the law, but we're just going to keep things as is while we look into it. They admit they're breaking the law.
That is all. Yes, exactly. They admit they're breaking the law. They're sort of saying we're breaking the law for a little bit longer, just a few more women in danger, and then we might get around to sorting ourselves out. Give us a minute. We've only had how long have they had now? A year and a. Well, it was the anniversary recently. I went. Yes. Everything you just said, and it's infuriating and good for J.K. Rowling, but you know what will happen. Somebody somewhere will say, oh, she's the female Elon Musk and she's hurting the people at the bottom. But she isn't. She's doing an absolutely fantastic thing, which the Scottish government should be doing. And what's going to happen now is the taxpayer's going to get a massive bill.
Sure.
Because we've now got to fight J.K. Rowling. Exactly, because we've got to fight J.K. Rowling, which is a bit unfair. So we're getting there, but as usual, we'll still be talking about this for a while to come, I think.
Well, J.K. Rowling, she's put her money where her mouth is. She says, I'm going to donate to this cause. Any women who are in prison with men. And there's some of the stories that have come out about women being sexually assaulted. It's horrific what has happened here.
There is a sweet irony in that this money will be coming from the people who spent the last 15 years reading the Harry Potter books, who are exactly the kind of people who are opposed to this. What a sweet irony that the money comes from those people, and that's where it'll end up. It would be nice if we could all do the same thing as the prison service, though, and say, like, when someone pulls you over, here, where you're speeding, sir, just give me like another 3 miles, and I'll probably be home by then, and then I'll reconsider it. But there would be another sweet irony, because if the prison is breaking the law, what do you do with them? I guess you send the prison people to prison, and then they'd wake up next to, someone called Laura who's massive, and it's
and
like
then they might sort it out.
Yeah, they probably sort something out, yeah.
Very good. All right, well, look, our next question's from Chris.
Are Yorkies for girls?
Are Yorkies for girls? And thank you so much, Chris, for shaving your shoulders in a period. Ready for the show. So the man behind Yorkie's famous It's Not For Girls adverts says the campaign would never be approved today, obviously. Former Nestle marketing director Andrew Harrison says modern attitudes and social media have ended the era of what he calls blokey humour. That's a little bit sad, isn't it? It was very also
sad.
The sales went up for men and women because guess what? Women can have a sense of humour.
It's a clever. It's like when they tell stand-up comics to tell stories. Well, this doesn't hold true anymore. But tell stories about what goes on in the men's or the women's toilets, because everybody in the room will either go, oh, it's about me, or oh, it's something I shouldn't know about. And that's what the advertising was, wasn't it? It was either it's just for me, so I'm going to buy it, or ha ha ha, I'm breaking the rules, or whatever. We all had a sense of humour. Where's that gone? I think it's silly.
It is silly, and like the adverts, they were funny in that they had a woman like with a fake moustache and sort of trying to pretend to know the offside rule, which I don't know, so I'm not allowed to eat Yorkies. But they got to play with these sex stereotypes.
And that's what it was, wasn't it? It's not a sexist advert because, I mean, I don't want to give the game away if people don't remember that era. Women could buy them. It was legal. It wasn't a law. It was just a silly joke in an advert. But I do think we're living through a time where the excuse used to be, well, it's just a joke, and that's why you could get away with it. But now I think comedy's policed more than anything else. The idea that you can talk about things, but you can't joke about things. Like, if you can make a film that includes some really offensive racial language, and it would just be a Certificate 18 film, but if a stand-up comedian uses it, you never work again, which is tricky. I'm an observational comedian. What if 3 of those types of people walk into a bar? What am I meant to say? So I think now comedy is just being policed because we're not allowed to do things. Just because we're comedians.
Absolutely. Well, look, a spokesman for Nestle previously said, we hope people know that this is an old marketing campaign and Yorkie is, of course, for everybody to enjoy. We haven't used the slogan for a number of years and have no plans to reuse it in the future. Please don't cancel us! No, I added those last few words. And our final question for the moment is from Nick.
Are posh boys toxic?
Oh, thank you, Nick, for asking that in the posh accent demanded for that. Are posh boys toxic? So Harrow School is launching a new programme to tackle toxic masculinity and influence, and the influence of online misogyny. The prestigious boys' school, where fees cost more than £61,000 a year, says it will examine the manosphere and teach pupils about respectful relationships. Cressida, would you date someone from Harrow? Are they too toxic for you?
Well, I'm sure they are toxic.
And that's what you like.
But how dare... Well, look, we've all got issues. Obviously, there are some that come along with that, but it's not the toxicity they're talking about, is it? They're going to get them in a room and say, oh, don't be too male. There's hardly any masculinity left. It's practically an endangered species. Don't crush the last bit.
Certainly not in those schools as well. How much manliness is going off in those schools? Probably not.
I like in the statement when you read the article, it goes, it's headmaster said. I say, oh, well, you'll find there, are you?
Yeah.
But they also said, they said that we're tackling toxic masculinity and misogyny with our pupils. So it's like they're almost saying that there is already this misogyny.
Yes, well, that's the problem. It's presumed that you never say masculinity unless you've got the word toxic near it. There's a lovely clip I saw on the internet where you try to ask women what are the good sides of masculinity, and they'll end up listing female traits, but compassion or caringness. So then you try and get them to only list things that are specifically male that you wouldn't identify as having as a woman, and they'll
like
get nothing.
Yorkies.
Well, yeah, can't even do that these days.
Come on, as soon as the boiler's broken, they'll think of something, won't they? I mean, come on, you know this.
Someone who went to that
That's right.
I am very good at finding a plumber's number on Google. That's my masculine skill.
Yeah. Well, as soon as batteries need changing, you're the guy.
Yeah, I'm the guy. Right, later this evening, I'm going to be talking about the high street giant that's under fire for displaying graphic cartoon images in its shop window. But next on Free Speech Nation, I'll be joined by one of the men who spoke alongside Tommy Robinson at the Oxford Union this week. See you in a couple of minutes.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you think it's getting hot across the UK over the next few days, it's even hotter over parts of Europe at the moment. Quite widespread heat warnings in force, as certainly inland areas of parts of Spain and France could be hitting 40 degrees plus. Around coastal regions in the Mediterranean, it will be a touch fresher, allowing for a little bit of a respite, but certainly there'll be plentiful amounts of sunshine with high pressure in charge, although the heat and humidity may just start to spark off a few thunderstorms as we do head throughout the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the new week, it's turning hotter, it's turning more humid, and we've already got an amber extreme heat warning in place from Monday across the southern half of the country. High pressure is dominating, it's sticking around. That will lead to day-on-day heating and drawing up that heat from the near continent. Through this evening and overnight, though, lengthy clear skies across much of the country. Across Northern Ireland, it will be turning cloudier. We'll see some patchy outbreaks of rain pushing its way north and eastwards into Scotland. To the south of that, clear skies but turning increasingly humid. Temperatures only around 17 or 19 degrees, so a very warm start to Monday morning. Across the north, though, that's where we have cloud and patchy outbreaks of rain. Best of the sunshine across the north of Scotland first thing on Monday morning. To the south of that, there will be patchy, mostly light rain. Similar picture across much of Northern Ireland and into northern parts of England, but to the south of that, across Wales, across the Midlands, East Anglia and the south of England, plenty of strong sunshine. As we head through the day, that theme continues. We'll see cloud and outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland and pushing into much of southern parts of Scotland and pushing its way north and eastwards. To the far southwest, we will see a few thunderstorms just pushing up from the south, so expect some flashes of lightning, perhaps some torrential downpours, some gusty winds, but elsewhere some good deal of strong sunshine. Temperatures here around 32, 33, possibly 34 degrees in the south. That leads to another warm, muggy, uncomfortable night for sleeping as we start Tuesday morning. But as we go through Tuesday, it's a day of a good deal of blue skies, but it's going to be feeling hotter out there and humid too. That's a similar picture as we go into Wednesday. Thursday, more in the way of cloud, but temperatures really peaking Wednesday and Thursday, 38 degrees possible.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the late edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, late edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. The Oxford Union was founded in 1823, and the former British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan once called it the last bastion of free speech. But this week, protesters demonstrated against an event featuring the, I say far-right activist Tommy Robinson, right-wing activist. Well, we'll discuss that in a second. They stopped hundreds of people getting into the union, including one of the speakers in the debate entitled "The West is Right to be Suspicious of Islam." The broadcaster Jonathan Sacerdoti took part in the debate at the Oxford Union, and he joins us now. Big round of applause. It's interesting because Tommy Robinson is described invariably as a far-right activist. I don't know what his actual politics are in terms of, he might want to sort of renationalise the railways or something. In terms of, his issues seem to be particularly with Islam as an ideology, and that is what this debate was about. If you could just fill us in, because I read a sort of update, an article you wrote about it. It sounded fun.
It was, if it weren't so serious, it would be hysterical. The event itself was organised by the Oxford Union's first female Palestinian Muslim president. I'm not sure how specific you need to be a first anymore, but that is who organised it. She wanted the debate about Islam to be held at the Oxford Union. So for that, she had many people's admiration. And then many people tried to cancel it because she invited Tommy Robinson to speak in that debate. Now, I think that's a brilliant choice of speaker, because Tommy Robinson is someone who's made a career over 20 years or more of speaking on exactly that topic, suspicion of Islam in the West. In fact, he's, I would say, an anti-Islam campaigner. But in my opinion, from interviews I've done with him that are available on YouTube, from conversations I've had with him, from pretty much everything I've seen him say or do in interviews for all of that period he's been in the public eye, I felt that he actually demonstrates quite a good, strong command of the arguments and of knowledge towards his opinion. Now, I was going there to speak as well. That doesn't mean that I was going there to agree with everything Tommy Robinson has ever said or done, but I happen to think that the team that was me, Lawrence Fox and Tommy Robinson put together a very strong argument, that we put it there, and that it was very hard, if you were in that room, to think that the other side, in my opinion, intellectually, were more logical or beat us on that. But all of the debate became about Tommy Robinson, and there were protesters outside, the police tried to stop it, local religious leaders tried to stop it, all because of Tommy Robinson.
And a lot of the audience couldn't get in, right?
So as a result of the protesters and the police's rubbish behaviour, they said it was going to cost them £80,000 to police it. But, it was a few hundred protesters, no more. And the police were just completely
That's a lot of hair dye, by the way.
There was. And a lot of purple hair. Yeah, and there was, when you look at the police that turn up to some protests and the police that turned up to that protest, again, it's very hard to say that there isn't two-tier policing. These were police in high-vis vests and cloth baseball caps rather than riot gear and the like. And yet this crowd blocked the streets so that the students who had decided they wanted to come to this event to hear the debate could not get in. So only the people who'd got there very, very early before the protesters. So I would say it was about half or a third full, and it probably would have been completely rammed, obviously because I was speaking there. But the point is that it was good that we carried on, and the debate was an important one, and I think that we had it. And I think
it's encouraging that they didn't cancel it.
No,
they didn't listen to the critics, and they said, you know what, we're a debating society. Some of the people here are contentious. This is a contentious topic, but we're going to go ahead with it. Now, arguably, that is a very positive sign about the state of our youth and academia. How did they actually respond in the debates itself? Because there was something quite funny. We haven't seen the videos yet, but there was a stunt that you pulled, shall we say.
So hopefully the videos will be out in a couple of weeks, is what I've been told by the Oxford Union, and they will release all the speeches, hopefully in their entirety. Last time they somewhat edited some of them last time I was there, and there was a lot of pressure to put out the full speeches. I look forward to seeing them then. I hope other people get to see them, and all the people that couldn't get into that room will. Yes, we did a few things on our side. Lawrence Fox and I had come up with this idea that he'd wanted to show a cartoon of Muhammad, but also didn't want to get killed. So we came up with a strategy where he would put it in an envelope and show them the envelope, and that throughout the speech he would mention that he has this cartoon in the envelope. Of course, everyone knows that the Charlie Hebdo journalists got literally killed for the cartoon of Muhammad, and plenty of others as well. And then towards the end of the debate, when he was about to take it out, Jacob Rees-Mogg, who was speaking on the other side, and also the president herself, who had held this debate, all tried to stop him being able to do it with everything they could muster. And in the end, he did pull out the picture, and it wasn't a cartoon of Muhammad, it was a cartoon of Jacob Rees-Mogg, who apparently in this country you are still allowed to mock, and everybody sighed with relief and laughed. But this, I think, proved the point. The fact that they desperately tried to stop the cartoon being shown showed that even the people on the other side were 100% suspicious of Islam, because they were terrified of what would happen if it were offended by showing a cartoon of their prophet. And similarly, I listed in my speech all the many ways Islam has entered into our Western lives as non-Muslims. The numerous terror attacks, from 9/11 to 7/7, to the Batley Grammar School teacher, to Lee Rigby being beheaded in the street, to Salman Abedi at the Manchester Arena bombing. All of these things had happened during just my lifetime, and the fact is that however many good parts there are towards some people's Islam, some people's Muslim faith, there are also many ways in which Islam still enters into our lives, which is incredibly destructive. And unless they are willing to discuss all of those things, and unless Western people feel safe from those threats, then of course it's natural for people in the West to be suspicious of the faith and of the ideology, not necessarily, of course, of all of the people
who follow it. Well, speaking of those threats, there was a court case this week, I believe, a daughter and a mother were shouting Khaybar, Khaybar al-Yahud or something, which is basically a pretty explicit threat to the murder of Jews. They were taken to court for threats, for hateful speech. There's a separate debate whether hateful speech in itself should be curtailed by law, but that does exist in this country, yet they got off in 28 minutes, the jury. Calling for the death of Jews in this country seems excessive, perhaps? Maybe it shouldn't be allowed?
So there's a lot of debates about what you can and can't chant at protests, and what is and isn't anti-Semitic, and what should and shouldn't be illegal. But I think most Jewish people had come to the conclusion that the Khaybar Khaybar chant was definitely one that nobody would disagree with, because it basically references the Battle of Khaybar in 628 AD, when the army of Muhammad slaughtered the Jewish tribes of Khaybar. And the chant is used basically since around the 80s to threaten Jews. It's literally Khaybar Khaybar, the army of Muhammad is coming back. And so the point is that it's literally referencing a time in Islamic belief and history when Muhammad's army slaughtered Jews because they were Jews, and it's saying that Muhammad's army is coming back. So this is a death threat on the streets to Jews in the West, in the UK. And by the way, these two people were doing this a few weeks after the October the 7th attacks. So as far as I understand,
the armies of Mohammed did come back and murdered over 1,000 Jews.
So this to me is a massive miscarriage of justice, that these people are not only let off, but there's now this symbol sent out, and this chant is a rallying chant. There is no doubt about it. That's the only reason people use it. It's Khaybar Khaybar, reference to Yahud, the Jews, not the Zionists, not Israel, Yahud. Okay. So it is a death threat to Jews.
Wow, well, that's great that people, and that's me being sarcastic, it should be said. Anyway, big round of applause, please, Jonathan Sacerdoti. Regarding the event at the Oxford Union on Wednesday, a Thames Valley police spokesman said event organisers are responsible for managing event security and the safety of their guests. We have worked closely with the Oxford Union and local partners through well-established safety advisory structures throughout the planning process. We're aware of a small number of guests reportedly difficulty accessing the Oxford Union. Decisions on access, including temporary suspension of entry, were made by the organisers, not police. Our officers deal with the situations as they happen, making decisions based on facts, evidence and risks at the time. We're committed to treating everyone fairly and with respect and keeping communities safe. Next on Free Speech Nation, I'll be bringing you an incredible story. The artist who was barred from her own exhibition and reported to police over her views on gender transitioning. See you in 2 minutes.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Which of us doesn't like a puffin? Which of us doesn't like a dolphin? I mean, come on, we love these creatures. I bet your fellow guest loves them. Let's ask him, shall we?
OK. Rafe, how do you feel about dolphins?
Yeah, there's nothing uniquely British about the dolphin. There are very few uniquely British species. And the key point here is that it's young nations that use flora and fauna. Nations with a proud history and legacy, such as Britain does, we celebrate our past, we celebrate our great achievements. Banknotes are a symbol of national identity, and they are symbols of sovereignty. They rank right up there with the flag, the crown, with our coat of arms, and our honour system as symbols of the British nation. We live in an age now where people are so ignorant of history. Banknotes are one of the very few occasions when people actually get to be introduced to historical figures and learn about them.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
He or she is obliged to write an equality impact assessment for every single policy that Kingston Council does. This person has come up with something which is simply true. Women do more domestic tasks than men. Women like to look nice. This person has stated something true. For this, the Kingston Council has now, and I'll read it out, they've apologised. They've issued a statement. Guess what? They've launched an investigation. And now they're going to review their procedures. I mean, this is a woke doom spiral. And it's the faster we can get away from these equality impact assessments, the public sector equality duty that drives all this, the better.
The People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Dorothy, how does it feel being here today, joining other veterans?
Everybody was so friendly in those days. We had one purpose in life, which was to free the world from Nazism and to get on with enjoying life. And it's so nice now that they're still looking to see if any of us are left, poor old dears, so they can say thank you and we can get together and talk about it. After the war, you simply didn't mention it. It went out of everybody's consciousness.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. An artist has secured a legal settlement after she was cancelled from her own exhibition and reported to the police for expressing her view on children going through gender transition. Victoria Culf brought legal action against Watford Borough Council. Here's what she had to say.
Somebody's been making up these stories about me
and telling them I'm this horrible person. And I don't understand why people that have got good common sense, and I've been very kind and loving to, are suddenly going, oh, she's really bad, you shouldn't talk to her. She's wildly homophobic and transphobic because she doesn't think you should transition a young child.
Well, we are joined now by Andrew Williams, who's the founder and chief executive of Christian Concern. Welcome to the show. We interviewed Victoria, actually, on the show, I think it was about a year and a half ago now. This whole process has taken 3 years to reach some kind of settlement, but it's crazy, isn't it? Let's talk through the story. As I remember it, she was putting on an exhibition in the council premises, had a conversation with someone whilst she was putting up over a cup of tea.
Literally over a cup of tea whilst putting up her exhibition. It was actually an exhibition that she had self-funded in communication with the Watford Museum. And she'd also had an ongoing contract to do further exhibitions there and in the community generally. And it was over a cup of tea with a colleague that she had this particular conversation.
And this colleague basically went and I believe got advice from a trans activist charity, reported her for a hate crime?
Well, you know, the thing was, Victoria describes it, I was passing her the milk, and she opened up her heart to me about the fact that her daughter was transitioning, and her daughter was a teenager, a young teenager, and that they'd gone to the Tavistock clinic.
Which has now been closed.
Yes, which has been closed and were seeking to access puberty suppressants at the time. And Victoria, at that point, just raised concerns about it, raised concerns around the Tavistock clinic, raised concerns over whether this was a good idea for her child, and that she honestly felt that she was having a heart-to-heart, mother-to-mother kind of conversation over a cup of tea. And so she did this. She went home. She felt that she'd really been as kind and as compassionate as she could be whilst airing that opinion. Obviously, it was going to be difficult, perhaps, for that other mother to receive, that other worker to receive. But really, the next thing that Victoria knew was that she was being called transphobic on social media. She was reported to the bosses at Watford Borough Council, and she was reported to the police. They went to Ask Clive, which is an organisation associated with Stonewall, and with the help of Ask Clive, reported Victoria to the police for a hate crime. So Victoria was suddenly subject to all of these things for a conversation over a cup of tea.
Well, listen, look, I don't know what it would be like for your child to come to you and say that they think they're actually the opposite sex. I imagine that's incredibly hard. I know what I have thought about it, and I know what my response would be. But I can understand that someone sharing their intimate personal life and basically someone saying, well, you know what, actually, I don't agree with that, what you're putting them on drugs. I can understand all of that. There's a difference between having a difference of opinion and being accused of a hate crime for having a different thought. And then, of course, the council acting upon this report. Now, I believe, to be fair to the police, that they did actually drop it. Basically, or they looked at it and they said she hasn't committed a crime. Victoria, my understanding, didn't know that, so she had this hanging over her.
She wasn't told that, so she was really concerned that the police were going to turn up at her door. And I think it takes a lot of courage, Josh, to in that moment, to say to another mum, do you really think... That takes a lot of love, actually, and a lot of courage.
And we're talking about drugs that not arguably, that do have been proven...
have such a catastrophic effect. And, of course, now, as time's gone on, we've seen the impact of those drugs and the fact that Tavistock's been closed down, and now many cases of children or young people who've transitioned now wanting to detransition. So it's a great act of courage and love in many ways.
Well, the final question is, do you think that Watford Council have kind of learnt a lesson from this experience not to sort of police people's legitimate thoughts that they're allowed to express? Do you think they're now actually, and not just Watford Council, but all of these councils who kind of overreach when there's a complaint, do you think now they're actually going to get the message?
Well, I think that thanks to GB News, thanks to organisations like ours and many others that are now, that the climate is changing, and the council has settled with Victoria, and they have made a public statement to say that Victoria's views, which came out of her Christian faith, that those now are to be respected. And so they have said that, and also that she can return and that she's a person of good standing. And of course, there were also safeguarding allegations raised against her that she wasn't fit to work with children. It's a lot for someone to endure for 3 years. The
expression we use most on this show is the process is the punishment. Absolutely, and that's what we've seen. 3 years of somebody's life with this hanging over them.
But how this week there's been settlement, and let's hope that means that councils now know that they can't put other people through 3 years of this kind of
I'm sorry that happened to Victoria. Congratulations on her success. Congratulations on helping her. Big round of applause, please. Andrew Williams. The statement from the Watford Borough Council says the council acknowledges that this is a complex and sensitive subject, and it respects that people hold a range of deeply held views about it, including those expressed by Mrs. Culf. The council now wishes to make it clear that it has no animosity towards Mrs. Culf and would work with her in the future as a community artist. Well, that is the end of the first hour on Free Speech Nation. Don't go away. Plenty more to come between now and 9 o'clock. You don't want to miss it. See you then.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the new week, it's turning hotter, it's turning more humid, and we've already got an amber extreme heat warning in place from Monday across the southern half of the country. High pressure is dominating, it's sticking around. That'll lead to day-on-day heating and drawing up that heat from the near continent. Through this evening and overnight, though, lengthy clear skies across much of the country. Across Northern Ireland, it will be turning cloudier. We'll see some patchy outbreaks of rain pushing its way north and eastwards into Scotland. To the south of that, clear skies but turning increasingly humid. Temperatures only around 17 or 19 degrees, so a very warm start to Monday morning. Across the north, though, that's where we have cloud and patchy outbreaks of rain. Best of the sunshine across the north of Scotland first thing on Monday morning. To the south of that, there will be patchy, mostly light rain. Similar picture across much of Northern Ireland and into northern parts of England, but to the south of that, across Wales, across the Midlands, East Anglia and the south of England, plenty of strong sunshine. As we head through the day, that theme continues. We'll see cloud and outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland and pushing into much of southern parts of Scotland and pushing its way north and eastwards. To the far southwest, we will see a few thunderstorms just pushing up from the south, so expect some flashes of lightning, perhaps some torrential downpours, some gusty winds, but elsewhere some good deal of strong sunshine. Temperatures here around 32, 33, possibly 34 degrees in the south. That leads to another warm, muggy, uncomfortable night for sleeping as we start Tuesday morning. But as we go through Tuesday, it's a day of a good deal of blue skies, but it's going to be feeling hotter out there and humid too. That's a similar picture as we go into Wednesday. Thursday, more in the way of cloud, but temperatures really peaking Wednesday and Thursday, 38 degrees possible.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello from the Imperial Island Resort in Paphos, and it's the final week to see how you could win big in time for summer. Someone has to win our stunning cash prize of £76,543.21. Just don't miss out as lines close on the 26th of June.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News. Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Happy Father's Day. Oh, gosh, Happy Father's Day, we would just say. Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Let's have a little round of applause. I like that, Happy Father's Day there. I got woken up, it was better this morning. I got a big chocolate bar and a mug, whereas last year my kids gave me a book on anger management. That's a true story there. So we've got lots more to come up between now and 9 o'clock. After all the recent talk about two-tier policing and anti-white racism, we'll discuss a shocking new report that says the Equality Act should be scrapped. And I'll be talking about the controversial cartoon image that one high street giant has stuck in a shop window. And we'll cross live to New York to find out whether a group of trans activists could be about to go bankrupt thanks to Donald Trump. And of course, myself and my fantastic comedian is going to be answering some questions from our wonderful audience. But we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so the last few weeks, you have not been able to move for accusations of two-tier Britain. Police forces and other public services have been accused of anti-white racism, and it's become one of the hottest political issues of the year. Now, a major new report claims the Equality Act should be scrapped. Dr. Anna Loufti is one of the authors of the report, and she joins us now. Big round of applause, please. So, I read this report this morning with a big bar of chocolate and my nice new mug.
Good.
And I actually understood it.
Good.
Which is a credit to you. It laid out the history of the Equality Act, and it showed how problematic it is and how it's impacted British law.
Yes.
You're the person who wrote it, so you can tell us and share it.
Well, I co-wrote it with Alka Sethgold-Cuthbert from Don't Divide Us, who I think is a regular on the show.
Yes.
So we wrote it together for the Prosperity Institute, and we don't outrightly recommend scrapping the Equality Act. We put it as an option. There are other options. One option is to repeal and replace the Equality Act with an alternative framework, an anti-discriminatory framework. Another option would be to remove from the Equality Act what the country decides are the more egregious aspects of it. But what we try to do... Which is
public discrimination.
Well, yeah, we set out 7 areas where we think the Equality Act is failing very badly. And in order to understand why this isn't some fascist far-right sort of conspiracy to rid Britain of all anti-racist legislation, what we do, and I think we are the first to do, is we give the history of the Act. And you need to understand the history of the Act. I'm a barrister, I work in employment law, I work in equality law, but my co-writer, Alka, is a sociologist, really, and a historian and a philosopher. So what we do is a multidisciplinary approach to the Equality Act, and we say, where did it come from, and how did it evolve, and what was its aim? And what I want to say to your audience today, and this is the most important part of what we try to do with the Act, is say, you are being sold a lie. Because what you're being sold is that the Equality Act was just a consolidation of existing anti-discriminatory legislation that existed and came into existence after World War II. One example would be the Two Race Relations Act of 1965-1968, where there were clearly anticipation at the level of the legislature that there would be hostility to people coming into the country from the Commonwealth countries, and they wanted to make sure that there were strict prohibitions on, for example, racist discrimination, specifically in provision of goods and services. I'm talking about primarily employment and housing. And that was the stuff that anti-racist legislation was made of in the 1960s. And we see similar legislation rolled out in respect of sex discrimination and disability discrimination. And what happened with the Equality Act was not, as you are being told, a mere consolidation of these previous pieces of legislation. There were conferences of international lawyers, human rights lawyers, who met and who decided that we needed something else. And what that was the Equality Act that brings a completely different philosophical approach to the idea of equality. It transforms the notion of the free, autonomous and equal individual citizen before the law into a bearer of a protected characteristic. This means there is no more formal equality. There is no more individual who has moral autonomy and choice in a free democratic society. There is the bearer of the group characteristic. You, Josh, are no longer a free man, an individual with a claim against whoever you want to bring a claim against, and a bearer of obligations in your own right whenever you enter into a contractual arrangement with GB News, for example. GB News cannot see you as an individual. You are a white, male, God knows what your sexual orientation is.
Who knows?
I think you might be Jewish, not sure. But the point that I'm making is that you are a bearer of group characteristics, as are all of the people in this.
It's not a colourblind society that we were meant to be striving towards.
Yes, and what happens is that the assumption, before we even get to court, or before we even get to the letter of the law, the assumption, the ideological assumption that is packed into the Equality Act a priori, is that some groups of people have been historically discriminated against, who suffer systemic prejudice, and that the whole world, if we're talking about Great Britain, the British society, the broader British society, is stacked against those people.
And that assumption, by the way, is in law.
It's everywhere. It's not just in law. I mean, it's fed by law because it's fed by the ideology of the Equality Act. You can read the Equal Rights Declaration on which the Equality Act was based, which was drafted. The Equal Rights Trust had their declaration drafted in 2008. Those are the international human rights lawyers that I mentioned earlier. Key proponents were Lord Leicester, Bob Heppel. Read the report, it's all laid out, the history, and what they did was they decided that we don't need formal equality anymore. What we need is transformative equality. That means it is the job of the state, through various public sector institutions, to identify systemic disadvantage and correct for it. That means we are now living in a society where public authority, including the judiciary, including the state, the political institutions, government, are now mandated to level the playing field.
So judges aren't hired on ability, they're hired because of ethnicity or characteristics. I mean, this is the sort of thing that's recently been proposed. And that's what they say.
Oh, well,
they're,
yes,
they're
you're
on
talking
merit.
about the recent...
but there are plenty of these examples over the last...
Across every area of life, we're now seeing a move away from the idea that people have skills, qualifications, aptitude, talents, which, by the way, an employer is in a very good position to judge. They will judge, for example, who should be paid what in respect of which skills they have and how they are needed and what the market rates are for specific sets of wages for specific types of job. Well, that goes with the Equality Act. As we show in our report, we talk about two cases, the Next case and the ASDA case, where, you know, actually the job of the judiciary is to determine wages based on protected characteristics. If it's seen that two people doing totally different jobs are different sexes, so a man does one job, a woman does another kind of job, it is possible to argue through the logic of the Equality Act that because we're talking about people with different protected characteristics, men versus women, that has to be equalised. So even if the jobs are totally different in nature and they appeal to completely different market rationales in terms of how they are paid, and the employer being in a position to understand that best, that has to be all handed over to a judge who has a new role under the new regime, which is to determine whether or not the wage is fair. Well, that means that we're now living fundamentally in some kind of state socialist economy.
So we've
by
got
the back door.
Well, because we sort of have two movements here working hand in hand.
Yeah.
We've had the ideology here of whatever you want to call it, progressive ideology, woke ideology, identity politics, but it's been backed up by the law at the same time, and it arguably wouldn't have got so far if it hadn't been enshrined within our law, right? So what do we do about it? Because you give three different possible solutions here.
Yeah, I mean, saying anything negative about the Equality Act is like saying something negative about babies. You know, we've been fed this mantra, again, to do with this lie that all the Equality Act did was to consolidate existing anti-discrimination legislation. What we show is no, it was about transforming the nature of the polis, the nature of the public. We are no longer free, autonomous individuals who can enter into free contractual relationships with other people and negotiate the terms and conditions. We are bearers of group, historic, privilege or lack of privilege. We are either advantaged or disadvantaged, and the job of the state, including the employer, is to correct for that. That's why employers now they have onerous HR duties. They have to conduct gender pay gap audits. They have to hand out training to all of their staff on all sorts of things, including, obviously, diversity, equity and inclusion. And we know that, for example, when it comes to race action, we've seen some of the outcomes of race action plans within the police. And what I would say, and I believe my co-author would agree with me, is that the police officer who stood by and did not believe Henry Novak as he lay dying was actually an exemplary police officer. He was doing what the Equality Act would tell him to do. The diversity and inclusion industry that has been spawned out of the Equality Act basically says that you have to adjust for the fact that some people have historic disadvantage, and it is not your job to interfere where somebody complains about another person's actions if that person is seen to belong to a protected or disadvantaged group. And so what I would say is it's no lie anymore or it's no exaggeration or hyperbole to suggest that DIE can actually kill. And we've seen huge industries, because many employers who are burdened by the onerous demands of meeting the public sector equality duty, where they have to ensure that they are doing the very best they can to ensure an equality of outcome without relying, for example, on individual merit, they will outsource that task to external agencies, charities, campaigning groups, advocates, and we see, for example, Stonewall's rise to prominence on the back of that.
So do you think it's going to be enough to get rid of some of the worst parts of the Equality Act in terms of the positive discrimination elements of it?
Positive discrimination is the idea. Well, it's actually positive action. And what it says is that, for example, because some people have experienced systemic disadvantage in the past, it is the job of the state and also the employer to correct for that by offering opportunities that would not necessarily be
So we have
ordinarily...
equality, and then we have equality of outcome instead of equality of opportunity.
Equality of outcome over equality of opportunity, and that translates into direct discrimination against certain groups of people, and when you complain about it, you're told, well, it's justified under positive action. So what we talk about in our report is how the entire Equality Act is actually a system of how to justify inequality, how to justify unequal treatment, how to justify giving some people favourable treatment over other people, when what it says on the tin is precisely that it's supposed to go against that and prevent that kind of attitude and treat people, you would think, as equal before the law, and that's not what's happening.
So do you think the politicians are out there going to be brave enough to really face this? We all want the same thing.
You don't have to be brave, you have to be sane, right?
Okay.
So all you have to do is accept that
politicians who are sane, are you sure
well,
that's...
I'm not sure, but I'm hoping still. I think for example, that people generally are adults. I mean, insofar as they are over the age of 18, they are entitled to act and enter into contractual relationships with other people as adults. We don't need to be infantilized. We are not bearers of protected characteristics. What we want to see is a restoration of common law contractual principles which treat people as individual adult equals. And what we say is that way you can actually mitigate against discrimination for all sorts of reasons. Some people are discriminated against because they're overweight. Some people are discriminated against because they have ginger hair. I have been discriminated against in the past because I have an elderly parent that I have to care for. That's not covered by the Equality Act. What we can do is we can enter into contractual relationships where if I am obliged to perform for my employer, and I do so, but they do not treat me favourably for some other reason that has nothing to do with my contractual performance, there can be an implied term in my contract that is discrimination. We don't need protected characteristics.
Okay, well, look, I would highly suggest people actually read this report.
It's
30 pages.
Difficult, yes.
It's written actually in a way that anybody who doesn't understand this topic.
Audience.
Absolutely.
Yes,
and what's the name of the report, very quickly?
The report is called Some More Equal Than Others.
Some More Equal
The
Than
Case
Others.
Against the Equality Act gives 3 recommendations for different courses of action,
Okay.
and it's available to everybody in a lay language that everyone can understand.
Big round of applause, please. Dr. Anna Loufti. A government spokesperson said the Equality Act 2010 is one of the most significant achievements in modern British history. It is the quiet guardian in millions of people's daily lives. This government will uphold and protect it, not weaken it. It is the legislation that stops bosses overlooking pregnant qualified workers for promotion or discriminating against interview candidates due to race or sexuality. It's why shops and transport must adapt for wheelchair users and why business owners can never turn you away based on faith. And we will go further by finishing the job to ensure there are new protections to prevent class-based discrimination by enacting the social economic duty so everyone has access to the same opportunities and services. Well, later this evening, I'll be telling you why Amnesty International is being criticised, and it's all to do with a small bookshop in London. But next on Free Speech Nation, I'll be joined by Stephen Allen and Cressida Wetton. We're going to be answering some audience questions. See you in a couple of minutes.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the
unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition, from 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now, our first question is from Anton.
Should the BBC be brainwashing our kids?
Should the BBC be brainwashing our kids? Well, this is all about two, I think, TV shows I saw this week, or reports that came out that how pro-asylum seeker... Is this right? Pro-migrant campaigners boasted they had influenced the BBC children's television show. It's part of an attempt to change attitudes towards asylum seekers. The group reportedly met with BBC producers of the CBBC programme for children aged around 7 to impact the framing of migration. So, Steve, is this why because I wrote a sort of a show for the BBC all about a asylum seeker hotel, like, opening up next to a school. And then, weirdly, they didn't accept that.
A bit like Never Twain, but a bit bigger.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
It's a great plot, great plot. Yeah, it's weird. And, yeah, clearly they've got the bias there. I mean, I'm more annoyed. There's the EastEnders has
had this, Coronation Street's had it. Those are going to be really impactful ones. Then you hear this story about going for this age group, the young ones. This TV show, I've not watched it because my kids aren't that old yet, but in it, apparently, she's an alien that leaves her planet, comes to Earth, so there's your migration narrative already built in. And then
was the planet called Syria?
But what bothers me, this is just the plot to Third Rock from the Sun. How are they just nicking that and just spinning it again? It's really annoying. I've worked at the BBC in the rooms where they put together radio shows, not TV stuff. But there is a bias, and for the place that's obsessed with unconscious bias, they've got one, and they're not willing to even question it, because it's the same rule, I suppose, as, like, middle-class dinner parties. In theory, you could say anything, but there are some things you know that if you say it, you're going to get looked at, and then you're considered the weird one. So that same thing, that's the kernel that then just leads to this... I'm sure they think it's a good thing. They would think, why not bring in this narrative to skew in a certain direction because it's good, without realising those who disagree think they're also good.
Absolutely. Then after the fact, Cressida, they were like, no, there's no problem. It hasn't really had an impact that we brought in this specialist who's pushing this ideology, and now that is reflected in the entirety of the season.
Yeah, well, except a fish doesn't know it's swimming in water, does it? I mean, I think they just think, well, of course we're just doing the right thing.
But that argument that it's not made a difference, then why is there a charity set up to do it?
Quite.
It must be making it.
Absolutely. And it's this will be their downfall. Saying that they aren't biased, it's just not true. And you're much better off to say, we're going to attempt to be balanced. But, I mean, I've heard that this channel is right-leaning. I don't know if you think that it is. But we have balance. We go to
I used to, and
great
then
lengths
I've been
to
here
find
for a couple of years
left-wing...
now.
Well, that's what happens.
Soft.
Spend 6 months here, you might... No, but we go to a great effort to get a variety of voices, and I'm not sure the BBC do that as much as we do.
No. I think that this was a really good thing for the BBC to do.
There's your balance.
Yeah. A BBC spokesman said the BBC has full editorial control over all its content. It's common practice across the media industry to engage with charities, among others, for research purposes and to help understand different perspectives when working on programmes or news stories. However, the BBC has strict guidelines to ensure impartiality and editorial independence. Well, our next question is from Hugh.
Hi, Josh. Should grieving families be reported to the police?
This is actually a really sad story. Police, exploiting grieving families. So this is the family, Rhiannon White, a 27-year-old hotel worker who was murdered by an asylum seeker, says her family was guided by the police to tone down their public statements in case the words led to anti-immigration rioting. This is it's an upsetting story. You can't imagine what it's like to lose a child, and the mum is now sort of saying, well, and at that moment when she's with her daughter on life support and it's being turned off and the police are there and they're having an influence on what she's saying.
Do you know what? With this story, though, the more I thought about it, the more I realised your anger shouldn't be at the police. Because the police were maybe trying to change the wording so that there wasn't a riot, and who'd be policing the riot? The police. So, of course, they don't want a riot to happen. But the problem here isn't the policing, it's the policy that then puts migrants in the wrong place or doesn't correctly maintain a border of a nation. And the police can't actually do that. I'm sure if the police could have all power, they would move migrants to a place where they can't attack people, I would imagine. But they're kind of hamstrung, aren't they? That all they can do is be there to try and deal with the crimes. I thoroughly blame the politicians on this way more than I blame the police.
She does blame the politicians. She does call them out for allowing this level of illegal migration and then putting them into these hotels. But there's anger there. I think you are going to be angry if your child has been murdered.
I can't imagine, and I don't know what she said. I mean, could there even be a protective element? You know, because it's possible that she could have said something that would have landed her in trouble. I mean, maybe that's for her legal team, not for the police. I mean, it's just awful, isn't it? But of course, I get Steve's point that they're thinking we don't want any more trouble. But yeah, terrible. I can't imagine being told what to say under those circumstances.
Absolutely. Well, look, GB News has approached the West Midlands Police for comment. Our next question's from Jeff.
Hi, Josh. Should the Labour government force social media platforms to take BBC content?
Yeah, this is actually an incredible story. So should the Labour government force social media platforms to push BBC content? Now, it's been claimed that the government wants to force social networks and video platforms to prioritise content from BBC, ITV and Channel 4 in a bid to stop the spread of misinformation online. The news comes less than a week after Sir Keir Starmer announced plans to ban under 16-year-olds from social media. So this story is totally mental.
Yep.
Misinformation is bad, and disinformation. The idea that they're going to get the truth from the BBC or some of these other news organisations, when there have been so many, like, they have to be prioritised because they're somehow more truthful, when there are so many examples of the BBC, like, deliberately misrepresenting the information, like with Trump, with the edit, but also there have been, like, these, you had 14,000 babies that were going to die in 48 hours. That never happened. There's a lot of things. Look, news organisations get things wrong, yet there seems to be a lot of examples. And the idea that the BBC is somehow less susceptible to this and they're going to provide the facts, I just don't buy it myself.
The argument that seems to be being made is that if you have access to less information, you will know more of the truth. And that just seems so fundamentally wrong, doesn't it? That clearly what you've got is a bunch of people who agree with certain outlets and want those outlets to be prioritised because, again, we're back to the bias. They fit the bias that our politicians at the moment have. It would be equally as bad if it was somehow the other way around. You have a right-wing government with a right-wing channel getting prioritised. None of that adds to a greater knowledge base for us to make decisions on. So much of this... I was reading this on the way in. I remembered, the Cathy Newman interview with Jordan Peterson, where she is a journalist...
Got it on repeat. Watch it every day.
Fun, it's you can't even watch the bloopers. It's all bloopers. It's great. But her attitude was basically, I know you're wrong. I'm going to sit here and work out why you're wrong, which is not the job of a journalist, is it? It would be, I want to know what you think, and maybe you want to editorialise afterwards and say, oh, I think that's wrong. But you very much can't before the horse. But this is that on a policy level, isn't it? It's like, I know who's going to be saying the truth before I know what they're saying, and they're going to get top billing.
Yeah, I mean, it's Keir Starmer who is supposedly pushing this forward. Whether he's still going to be here to actually do it, whether Andy Burnham will come in and say, look, this is ridiculous, I'm not sure. I think
King of the Northern Free Speech, Andy. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We don't know yet. You're right.
But this is incredible, right? This is what they're actually now. The government is trying to say, we've got to prioritise these news sources because they're totally going to tell you.
It's not even that they'll tell you the approved version of something. They might just not tell you. I mean, when we covered the Cass report, we covered that. I don't know if you remember. We had a whole episode about it. Well done,
the WPATH report, which we're going to be talking about later in the show. Yeah, no, that wasn't covered at all, I believe, in the BBC or some.
I remember that day searching for it to check, and it wasn't there. So, exactly as Steve said, free speech has got to be for everyone, hasn't it? We've got to let everybody have a go, and the idea that you push one over the other is always dodgy.
Absolutely. Look, we've got speaking of free speech, final question from Mike.
My question is, should female football pundits stay in the kitchen?
Should female football pundits stay in the kitchen? Now, ITV has been heavily criticised after designing a set that looks like a kitchen for a woman pundit. So, Cressida, there's this game called football. And
I'm not offended. I've heard of it. I know you don't. I know you
But
don't.
this was really funny because people were sort of using
very
AI.
strange,
We had
isn't
a
it?
picture of it, and it did look like a kitchen, but they added sinks and whatever. It's ridiculous to do this.
Why? But why? It's like
They
somebody's...
don't have the budget, ITV.
Somebody's brother-in-law was getting rid of an old... And that'll do. I mean, what were they doing? It's not... I know enough about football to know it's quite slick.
Yeah.
And that set wasn't. It was very rustic.
And this is the American coach, I believe, and supposedly she's really good.
Well, she's
and
English.
very
She has an English
insightful.
accent. So whether they thought that's what English people like, rustic
Maybe.
and chalk...
But you're right, I don't know a lot about football, but I do like seeing women in kitchens. No, that's not where I'm going on this. No, I like a kitchen. You look at that, and you'll never regret having storage. And there's so many shelves in there, your cutlery, crockery, even the little placemats.
Do you think that's missing on the Free Speech Nation set? We should just turn this whole thing into a kitchen and we'll be sitting chatting.
Everything's in my pockets.
So you were cancelled. Tell us as I make you fry an egg.
Do a bit of ironing, pop it back in. Yeah, I'm going to go for it. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Well, next on Free Speech Nation, I'll tell you why a high street company with a turnover of more than £700 million is under fire once again for its stance on trans issues. See you in 2 minutes.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you think it's getting hot across the UK over the next few days, it's even hotter over parts of Europe at the moment. Quite widespread heat warnings in force, as certainly inland areas of parts of Spain and France could be hitting 40 degrees plus. Around coastal regions in the Mediterranean, it will be a touch fresher, allowing for a little bit of a respite, but certainly there'll be plentiful amounts of sunshine with high pressure in charge, although the heat and humidity may just start to spark off a few thunderstorms as we do head throughout the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the new week, it's turning hotter, it's turning more humid, and we've already got an amber extreme heat warning in place from Monday across the southern half of the country. High pressure is dominating, it's sticking around. That'll lead to day-on-day heating and drawing up that heat from the near continent. Through this evening and overnight, though, lengthy clear skies across much of the country. Across Northern Ireland, it will be turning cloudier. We'll see some patchy outbreaks of rain pushing its way north and eastwards into Scotland. To the south of that, clear skies but turning increasingly humid. Temperatures only around 17 or 19 degrees, so a very warm start to Monday morning. Across the north, though, that's where we have cloud and patchy outbreaks of rain. Best of the sunshine across the north of Scotland first thing on Monday morning. To the south of that, there will be patchy, mostly light rain. Similar picture across much of Northern Ireland and into northern parts of England, but to the south of that, across Wales, across the Midlands, East Anglia and the south of England, plenty of strong sunshine. As we head through the day, that theme continues. We'll see cloud and outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland and pushing into much of southern parts of Scotland and pushing its way north and eastwards. To the far southwest, we will see a few thunderstorms just pushing up from the south, so expect some flashes of lightning, perhaps some torrential downpours, some gusty winds, but elsewhere some good deal of strong sunshine. Temperatures here around 32, 33, possibly 34 degrees in the south. That leads to another warm, muggy, uncomfortable night for sleeping as we start Tuesday morning. But as we go through Tuesday, it's a day of a good deal of blue skies, but it's going to be feeling hotter out there and humid too. That's a similar picture as we go into Wednesday. Thursday, more in the way of cloud, but temperatures really peaking Wednesday and Thursday, 38 degrees possible.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in,
I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. Lush is facing criticism over a pride display featuring a tiger with markings associated with transgender top surgery. Some breast cancer survivors say the artwork glorifies the removal of healthy breasts and is insensitive to women who have undergone mastectomies for medical reasons. But the artist behind the display, who has had top surgery, says it was part of a citywide pride campaign designed to support trans people who had undergone the top surgery and encourage pride in their scars. We are joined by Janet Murray, who's written an article about this very topic. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I like bath bombs.
Me too.
A big bath bomb fan. Father's Day. Didn't receive any. But frankly, well, there's two stories that have gone on here. Let's start with the first one, which is these pictures of a tiger with these scars, with healthy young people having this surgery to remove their breasts, and how that would feel for someone who has been through breast cancer.
Yeah. So I had breast cancer last year. So I saw it, I think it was on X, and it was this image of this cute little tiger which had two scars here and here, and it also has like self-harm scars as well up and down its arms. And I think I reacted as a lot of women would, and particularly those who've had kind of major breast surgery. You just think, oh my gosh, this shop is really popular, particularly with young girls, very influential. Why are they glorifying something that, you know, it's a personal decision. If somebody decides that they want to have their breast removed because they want to appear more masculine, that is a personal decision. But that doesn't feel to me like something that you should be influencing young, impressionable girls or young women to do, who may be just feeling confused and need a different type of support. So it was a bit of a shock to me. I posted about it on X. A lot of other women who've had breast cancer felt very much the same as I did, and the story just went and went.
And then you were contacted by someone who used to work or still works for Lush?
Somebody who used to work at Lush got in touch with me and said, thank you so much for bringing this to people's attention. Working at Lush, she said, the phrase she used was the constant activism is just exhausting, and it isn't just about the gender stuff, but mainly that. She said when she first got there, they were all encouraged to wear these pronoun badges. She was saying that customers would come in and ask for gifts for a pregnant woman, and they'd be corrected and say no pregnant people. And one customer in particular got quite upset about this and corrected them, and they were just saying, oh, what a bigot. And she also said last year Lush had this big campaign where they launched a transgender staff policy, and had this like special bath bomb, and they had this I don't know if you remember this display in the window, which was like protect trans kids and GPs for gender affirming care, and a lot of people were, you know, quite upset by that at the time. And she said she was appalled by this window display, but she was looking around her and everybody else seemed to think it was great, so she felt like she couldn't say anything. She said she suspected there was one person who might agree with her, but they were too scared to say. And she was just completely appalled by it. And she said it just exhausted her, you know, by the end of it, because when you're working somewhere and you feel like you have to keep your views about something which is, you know, basic biological sex, views that the majority of people hold, lawful, completely normal views, it just wears you down after a while.
Absolutely. I mean, I read something on a comment on X, so I'm sure it's definitely true. But the guy, he said he went in to buy some soaps for his wife, and they said, oh, do you want a soap for Palestine? And he said, no, but I'll take a soap for Israel. And they sort of freaked out, and he just ended up just leaving the shop, didn't buy anything. So I guess the question then comes, well, there's two elements to this. Number one is you've got customers going in, and the majority of people believe believe, know that there are only two sexes, that the only people who can get pregnant, for example, are women.
Yeah.
So there seems to be a real willingness. Do they believe that their products smell so good that people are willing to kind of accept this, or do you think this is almost like a sort of marketing thing where there is this sort of fad element to this ideology? This is appealing to young people, and they've sort of gone, right, well, we're going to appeal to that base and stick with them.
Well, I think this is not the first time that Lush have been pulled up for this kind of thing, and the lady that I spoke to was saying that it's a very young staff, and there's a lot of people who are working there part-time and students, and she felt that people genuinely did believe it. But of course, when you're working someone like that, you never know, do you? Is everybody just kind of putting their head down and not saying anything because they think everybody else believes it? But it's certainly not a positive or healthy environment to be working in.
Well, that's it. If somebody then does go, actually, I don't agree with, I don't want to wear a badge with my pronouns, what would happen to them? If they were working there on zero-hour contracts, would they then suddenly find themselves with less shifts, left, right? Then it's going to take someone to actually sue them so that you just leave that stuff at home. Yeah. But it's interesting because we've seen over the years many examples of these companies who have kind of released Jaguar, gone down this road of, go woke, go broke. There have been real ramifications to the bottom line. But do you think that Lush has somehow, I mean, you can't see their accounts necessarily, but do you think that alienating... I remember when Body Shop put out a tweet was very sarky about J.K. Rowling. A lot of women sort of went, you know what, I'm not going to shop there anymore. Lush just really do seem to be doubling down on this stuff. Yeah, and having reported on these kind of organisations like Girl Guiding, Women's Institute, the story seems to be the same every time. You've got a small number of people who think that they're right, think everybody else thinks the same, and a lot of people who are either not sure whether they can say their views or not, or disagree and are just keeping their head down because they're worried about losing their jobs, which again seems completely ridiculous when you're talking about lawfully held, perfectly reasonable, normal views that are two sexes, male and female. And so I think it's... I think with Lush, or certainly the impression I got speaking to this employee, it was the same thing there. You've got this kind of, real kind of strong activist force, and everybody else is just kind of like going along with it, and you're not quite sure. It's quite sinister, really. You're not quite sure what people think, so you just kind of keep your head down. Has anybody looked into the possibility of the fumes kind of messing with your brain? So much that could be why that's what it takes, is that everybody's sort of high on the smell of soap.
Maybe. I mean, I really like the smell. I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of comments online.
I don't like it from 3 blocks away.
Oh, I love it. I think it's really nice, and I have to almost force myself not to buy them. And also, I don't know if anybody else is into bath bombs, but they are actually good and they work and they're really expensive.
Well, look at that. Now we've done our Ofcom. We've met our Ofcom remit. We've criticised Lush. We've said we enjoy the bath bombs.
They're good. They smell. They actually fuzz up in the bath.
There are other bath bombs available.
Yeah, but they are good. But I have to force myself not to buy them because I don't want to buy from companies that encourage, confused young girls and women to take really drastic action, cutting their body parts off. I mean, that's really what we're talking about.
And interestingly, they wouldn't want
they don't want my business anyway. They wouldn't want a bigot like me shopping with them, I'm quite sure.
So everybody's happy, apart from you don't get your bath bombs.
Yeah.
All right, well, fair enough. Big round of applause, please, for Janet Murray. GB News has approached Lush for comment on this story. We'll bring you their comment as and when they get back in touch. Actually, no, they would say in the past they have said, though, that to seek counter-negative representation by presenting a positive vision of the world, we could and should be striving for where the UK leads on trans rights, tackles transphobia, prioritises gender-affirming care, provides safety and dignity for LGBTQIS, QI plus asylum seekers and more. What I think interesting is hopefully maybe they'll use this little snippet as an advert. We'll play this in store.
Yeah, they just cut it out of context,
bath bombs are good, and that'll be it. Right. Next on Free Speech Nation, I'll be telling you why a controversial transgender group could be facing financial ruin thanks to Donald Trump. See you in a couple of minutes.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel. all the things that we might not think about when we think about a pint of beer, all the things that go into running a pub like this one. So I'll hand you the microphone, you tell us while I have a go at this. Don't judge me too harshly, Dawn.
Amazing. So obviously people don't take into effect that the energy costs and the raw material costs, also the packaging, overheads and the tax hikes. So when we're pulling a pint of beer, we have to think about the cost that's gone into making the beer and the rises in that. We also have to think about the overheads, the staff, the electrics which are plumbed in to pouring a pint. This obviously is very astronomical to pubs, because if it increases, we're therefore going to have to put that onto the consumer, making the pint of beer more expensive.
GB News, the People's Channel. GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
You can't help wondering if that's what Prince William, future king, of course, is sort of planning for the future, whether that's the sort of slightly more laid-back attitude towards modern life.
Yes, I mean, I think we're going to see a huge change in the type of monarchy we have when he comes to the throne. We can very much see that King Charles is his mother's son. King Charles very much regards the Coronation Act as a sacrament, that it's essentially akin to becoming a priest, something that you do for life, much as the Queen Elizabeth felt it was too, a deeply sacred spiritual bond, a covenant between God and himself and the people. We know that that is not really the way that Prince William regards monarchy as well. I personally think, for example, that Prince William will become the first king to abdicate.
GB News, the People's Channel. Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
I thought the film, which Spielberg didn't somehow strike the right note.
So this would be the way I felt about High Society, the musical. It's glossy, it's beautiful, it's impressive, but you feel a little bit distant from it. Warhorse, you are in there. Fantastic humour, that brings you in, you laugh with them, you care about them. So even when they're in the trenches and Albert makes a friend, they're bantering about girlfriends and things like that. You absorb how arbitrary and terrible war is, you know, decisions made by people far away, young lads just shoved over to run horse charges
and it's
into...
happening now,
yeah,
Stephen, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
What you're describing is happening now.
Well, this is why it's resonating so much, because you're sitting there going, what is the point? It's so beautifully done. I cannot recommend it enough.
Where?
This one is on at the National Theatre. It's Come Back Home. It's where it started almost 20 years ago.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now, could the controversial World Professional Association for Transgender Health, WPATH, be facing financial ruin? It is being sued in the United States and is accused of making misleading statements about the benefits of gender-affirming treatments for young people. We are now joined by Leor Sapir, who's a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute and specialises in youth gender medicine. Welcome to the show. Hello, Leor. How are you doing?
Good,
Hi,
good.
so you broke the story this week on Unheard that the government is suing WPATH. Has that been big news in America? And can we just quickly explain for our audience, even though they most likely know, what WPATH is?
Sure. WPATH is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. It is the preeminent, you could call it medical, I think most people would call it an activist organization advocating for medical procedures for both adults and minors in the United States and in many other countries abroad. And in the United States in particular, because of how our healthcare system works, WPATH has a very outsized role in determining which treatments get offered to whom, what gets covered by insurance, and what can be successfully defended in courts in the context of, for example, medical malpractice suits. So WPATH is really the key player in the United States, and it's no coincidence, of course, that the Federal Trade Commission is trying to go after this organization.
Well, so the Federal Trade Commission, they're going to sue it. I believe it's 4 states, and this has been launched in Texas. And what does the FTA? What are their means? What are their grounds for suing then?
Sure. So the FTC, there's a federal law called the FTC Act, which defines the powers of the federal agency, the Federal Trade Commission. And sections 5 and 12 of the FTC Act basically empower the agency to prosecute, the words are unfair or deceptive acts or practices in or affecting commerce. And that includes in the marketing of products or services. And the key word here, Josh, is commerce. We should expect WPATH to argue that its activities are not commerce in the relevant sense and therefore do not fall under the jurisdiction of the FTC. And of course, the FTC is going to argue and does argue in its legal filing that what WPATH does is essentially engage in commerce on behalf of its members.
Yeah, so, and I believe that in the filing, they're actually using WPATH's own sort of words against them, that they'd sort of gone to different people who'd used their services and have essentially been missold it because they said we have this evidence, and then it turns out that that wasn't the case.
That's correct. So assuming the FTC crosses this initial legal threshold, which I think that's going to be 90% of the battle here, in order for the FTC and the 4 states that are co-plaintiffs in this lawsuit to be successful, they have to show clear evidence that the problematic statements that they're pointing to by WPATH were materially likely to mislead reasonable consumers. That's the legal standard. And so the FTC here is relying on 3 sources of evidence. The first and probably most important is going to be the internal WPATH communications that were subpoenaed by the state of Alabama in the context of a lawsuit in that state a couple of years ago. And these communications were published in 2024. They appeared in the New York Times and The Economist, and of course in many right-of-center newspapers. These communications show the smoking gun evidence of misconduct that WPATH engaged in.
So this is the WPATH, these are the WPATH files, right?
No, this is not the WPATH.
This is the one that was a year after. Yes.
Well, a few months after, right. So the WPATH files refers to leaked communications that were published in the form of a report, a comprehensive report written by Mia Hughes. And this was published in the beginning of 2024. The communications that I'm talking about were subpoenaed. They were ordered by a court in a lawsuit in Alabama. And these were the documents that showed WPATH members admitting privately and explicitly to one another that they did things like commission evidence reviews and then suppress their publication when they found out that the evidence reviews did not support their approach. They eliminated age minimums for almost all hormonal and surgical procedures except for one specific type of surgery. Not for any scientific reason, but because of pressure from outside organizations and activists. And they admitted privately that they had no good evidence to do so. And then they tried to conceal all of this misconduct, not just from the general public and the rest of the medical community, but even from other members of WPATH. And so the list goes on and on and on of all the misconduct that was unearthed as part of this lawsuit. So that's kind of the first category is everything that came out of the Alabama lawsuit. And that in and of itself should be damning enough. The second category that the FTC is relying on are testimonies.
Sorry, Leor, I just want to ask you one question because we've got a limited amount of time. Sorry. You may have heard that in the UK, we have the Pathways trial, which was paused, and now a new health secretary has come in, and now it's now being started up again. You have children as young as 11 potentially put on these drugs that have detrimental impacts, although they would argue they haven't. Do you think it's crazy that what's happening in America over there, but over here, we're still going ahead with this stuff?
Well, I think the situation here in the United States is much worse, if you ask me. And that has a lot to do with how our medical system works, and how federalism system works. But I think that you guys are several steps ahead. But yes, the Pathways trial is problematic. It violates key principles of medical ethics, or at least there's good reason to believe that it would. And so, you know, we're hoping that you guys can make sense of that over there.
Okay, well, look, good luck over in America. Thank you so much for joining us. Leor Sapir, big round of applause. A statement from the World Professional Association for Transgender Health said this is the second time this year the Trump administration has abused the authority of its agencies to interfere with Americans' rights to seek and obtain the health care that should be decided between a patient and their physician. The first attempt, the Federal Trade Commission's improper request to WPATH for protected information, was struck down by a federal judge. Transgender and gender-diverse patients deserve the highest level of care from their medical professionals, and the standards of care are designed to promote this through open dialogue and clear communications. The Pathways team said our priority remains to safely and robustly investigate the benefits and risks of puberty suppression for young people with gender incongruence to inform NHS healthcare. Well, thank you very much for joining us for Free Speech Nation this evening. Thank you very much to my panel. Thank you to all of my brilliant guests this evening. If you want to join us live in the studio, be part of our wonderful audience, you can. Please go to gbnews.com/tickets. We also have brilliant Alex Armstrong. He is coming up tonight. That is next. But thank you so much for joining us for Free Speech Nation. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Josh. Yes, is it Keir today, gone tomorrow? That seems to be the case, doesn't it? We are now on resignation watch for the Prime Minister, who we believe has left Chequers, is making his way back to Downing Street. I've got a little compilation of Keir Starmer's best bits to show with you tonight at 9 o'clock. So come and join me for that. And at 10 o'clock, I'm going to be talking about the runners and riders who might be making up Andy Burnham's cabinet. It's going to be a really great show tonight. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss this one. See you shortly.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into the new week, it's turning hotter, it's turning more humid, and we've already got an amber extreme heat warning in place from Monday across the southern half of the country. High pressure is dominating, it's sticking around. That will lead to day-on-day heating and drawing up that heat from the near continent. Through this evening and overnight, though, lengthy clear skies across much of the country. Across Northern Ireland, it will be turning cloudier. We'll see some patchy outbreaks of rain pushing its way north and eastwards into Scotland. To the south of that, clear skies but turning increasingly humid. Temperatures only around 17 or 19 degrees, so a very warm start to Monday morning. Across the north, though, that's where we have cloud and patchy outbreaks of rain. Best of the sunshine across the north of Scotland first thing on Monday morning. To the south of that, there will be patchy, mostly light rain. Similar picture across much of Northern Ireland and into northern parts of England, but to the south of that, across Wales, across the Midlands, East Anglia and the south of England, plenty of strong sunshine. As we head through the day, that theme continues. We'll see cloud and outbreaks of rain across Northern Ireland and pushing into much of southern parts of Scotland and pushing its way north and eastwards. To the far southwest, we will see a few thunderstorms just pushing up from the south, so expect some flashes of lightning, perhaps some torrential downpours, some gusty winds, but elsewhere some good deal of strong sunshine. Temperatures here around 32, 33, possibly 34 degrees in the south. That leads to another warm, muggy, uncomfortable night for sleeping as we start Tuesday morning. But as we go through Tuesday, it's a day of a good deal of blue skies, but it's going to be feeling hotter out there and humid too. That's a similar picture as we go into Wednesday. Thursday, more in the way of cloud, but temperatures really peaking Wednesday and Thursday, 38 degrees possible.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hello from the Imperial Island Resort in Paphos, and it's the final week to see how you could win big in time for summer. Someone has to win our stunning cash prize of £76,543 and 21 pence. Just don't miss out as lines close on the 26th of June.
For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The GB News audience is different, it's unique, because they see through the nonsense.
We want to debate with each other, want to listen and maybe learn.
We have a chat. That's what we do. We try and have a chat.
They'll watch my programme while they're eating their tea, they'll watch breakfast while they're busy getting their kids ready for school.
We want to hear what matters to you, what is news for you.
And what's brought you out here today?
What are the biggest issues affecting this particular area?
The audience are the best thing about GB News.
Their friends, their family. They're people who need to have their voices heard.
They're passionate about the channel, they're passionate about what they believe in.
The one thing about GB News is you get a chance to speak.
Talk to me about why so many people have gathered here today.
Do you want to say something back in return? The GB News audience is what makes GB News special.
It's incredible to see.
They shape our programmes, they shape our output, and they shape our channel.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good evening, it's 9 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight on the show.
I intend not to walk away from this, but to carry on with what I was elected to do, which is to serve this country and bring about the change that people desperately need in their lives.
His final U-turn, isn't it? Yes, tonight. I know you've all heard it before, but as Keir Starmer hemorrhages support, even from his closest allies, he looks set to resign as Prime Minister tomorrow. And
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Yes, I'm going to have a lot of fun on this show tonight because we're going to take a look back at some of Keir Starmer's best bits as we get ready to wave goodbye to our 7th Prime Minister in just 10 years. What is wrong with all of us? Also, okay, this is a serious note, this one. The family of Rhiannon White claims the police guided them into toning down their public statements after she was murdered, of course, by an illegal migrant to stop anti-immigration rioting. Plus, Nottingham is going to become the first city in Britain to ban the balaclava. That's as youths and machete-wielding thugs have been terrorising the city. And yes, support for the royal family hits a 30-year low, and it comes as the palace have declared that the king is going to publish his tax returns in a historic first. Will this transparency change their fortunes, or will it make things even worse for them? Also, you won't even guess how many tens of thousands of years the asylum court backlog would take to clear under this government. But I'm going to reveal the shocking statistic. And joining me on the show tonight, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, associate comment editor for The Telegraph, Poppy Coburn, and former Labour MP Bill Rammell. Look, I've got a massive 2 hours of news coming up for you. What an evening it is going to be. It's like the night before Christmas for many of you. And talking of Christmas, I asked both Bill and Adam for their predictions, their political predictions for the coming year. One of them was scarily accurate. Look, I'm going to give you the opportunity to pick a wild card. The one that you might not think that you would like, but what you think the Labour Party membership will likely vote for, or who you think is the most likely person to win. Is Keir Starmer going to resign tomorrow, or is it going to look a little bit like this? Oh, gosh, that's just a bit of AI fun there. But seriously, it has been an utter disaster, hasn't it? So, before you do go, Keir, should we have a little look at your best bits?
My dad was a tool maker. My dad was a tool maker. My dad was a tool maker. But when I grew up, my dad was a tool maker. He worked in a factory. It's true.
Did you know Keir's dad was a tool maker? He did indeed make a lot of tools for the country, didn't he? Starmer's also famous for being #never hear Keir.
Have you lost control of your MPs, Prime Minister?
Hello. How are you?
Yes, he does love a trip, our kid, doesn't he? So much so, a bit of a fag packet maths shows he has now travelled 70% of the way to the moon, spent 86 days, almost 3 months of his short reign abroad, and over 3 working weeks in the air. He's away so much, he started mimicking the cartoon character Roadrunner. Meep indeed. And we do need an update on that ever-important hostage release.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages, the hostages.
We need them back, those sausages. We really do. And how can we forget how superbly the establishment media claimed Starmer navigated the special relationship.
Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
It's very nice that you're here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with. I will say the UK has been very, very uncooperative.
Yes, indeed. And, of course, he had to go to the highest court in the land for our great leader to understand what a woman was.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that shouldn't be said.
A woman can have a penis.
Look, I'm not... I don't think we can conduct this debate.
He just beggars belief. And sometimes he's just so deeply out of touch. Even the House of Commons has a good laugh at his expense.
I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible.
It's the moment of realisation on his face, isn't it? And the only good news is this. If Starmer doesn't go now, the Labour Party, of course, is going to tear itself apart. And that in itself would be utterly glorious to watch for many of us, wouldn't it? But the choice is yours, Keir. Either way, I think the country will celebrate, even if it is just for 24 hours. To get the thoughts of my panel, businessman and activist Adam Brooks is here, Associate Comment Editor for The Telegraph, Poppy Coburn, and former Labour MP Bill Rammell. I'm so glad both of you two are here tonight. Poppy, you weren't here when these predictions were made, but there is an incredible prediction that was made on this show on the 21st of December. And I have to tell you, watching it back earlier on today, it is scary how accurate it is. Stay tuned for that one, because I'm going to show that to you at 10 o'clock. Let's get talking about Keir, though. Adam, you're going to miss him. Be real, be honest.
Let me just tell you now, even though I know what's coming is just as bad, if not worse, this has been the worst Prime Minister of my lifetime, possibly in the last 50 years, the most unpopular, most hated. He immediately, once there was the riots in 2024, labelled everyday Brits as far right and extreme. He dared to label hard-working people, men and women, as being extreme for wanting secure borders, for wanting safe communities. It was then that he was done. Within months, he was done as Prime Minister. He then went on to target pensioners in a freezing cold winter. He wanted to strip their money away for almost no gain. He went for the farmers. He's come for small businesses. Our taxes are at 90-year highs and everything is crumbling around us. Sex crimes against women and girls are at record levels. This man has been an unmitigated disaster. And yes, what we've got coming is no better. But I'm going to celebrate with a party in my pub once he's gone. Because for me, he just encapsulates 2 years of misery and division in this country. He could not make a decision on anything. He blew with a wind, you know. He couldn't even stick by a speech that he made. Remember the Island of Strangers? It was the best thing he'd ever said. And I remember tweeting saying, wow, this guy's woken up. And then he denied that he knew any knowledge of what was in that speech and that script.
Yeah, he said someone else wrote it, didn't he?
So, look, the man is a coward. The man should not be a politician. He's a lawyer, human rights lawyer, that should be nowhere near the top level of this country. So good riddance, and I hope he just goes away now. I don't even want him as an MP.
Yeah, Poppy, I guess his reign is sort of being framed as over now, but there's a chance he could fight it. I think it's a slim chance at this point, but he might say, do you know what, I'm still Prime Minister.
I mean, I'm in two minds about this, because I'm just thinking, I was watching one of those clips that you put up on screen. It was Keir Starmer speaking in 2021.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought when I looked at him was, my God, how different does he look?
Yeah.
I mean, it's as if he has aged 20 years in the short time that he's been Prime Minister. He's not even been Prime Minister for 2 years. He's completely changed as a person. And I think there's a part of him, he's a terrible politician, as you pointed out, Adam. He cannot do it. He's lacking some... Aside from the ideology, he's lacking something inside him to allow him to do that job well. And you can really see the toll it's taken on him. And I do wonder after this if he's just going to say, you know what, I want nothing to do with the party. Because he hates the Labour Party. He's been raging the entire weekend. We've heard briefs of him going around saying, I've sacrificed so many years of my life, I've sacrificed my teenage years and my children to be Prime Minister, to look after the Labour Party, and look what you're doing now, you're stabbing me in the back. So I'd be incredibly surprised if after all of this, all the humiliation, all the hurt it's clearly caused him, and of course the country, if he'd really want to stay in that job afterwards.
Yeah, is there a case to be made? I mean, Bill, you know, I've sat here before. There was a month ago. One of my monologues for a month ago is going viral now on TikTok. It's when I declared that there was really strong indicators that he might have even gone a few weeks ago when the Mandelson files, the second version came out and was very damaging for him. But of course he didn't go in the end. But now these young kids are sharing it on TikTok because they're so happy they think the social media bans are coming in, so they just rehashed it. Is there a chance he stays?
I don't think so. I think this is the end of the road. I think Keir's problem is that his writ and his authority and his vision doesn't permeate the government, and that has real consequences for policy making and particularly communications. And I think we've learnt over the last 2 years that Keir's a fairly awful communicator.
Yep.
He doesn't emote, he doesn't connect with people, and in this day and age, I think that's a real problem. Having said that, you know, he has got real achievements. You know, waiting lists falling, net migration down by 800,000.
Tory policy, was it, though, net migration?
No. This government's gone way beyond what the Tories committed to, and it's having success and traction. And on the international stage, I think he's made the right calls, you know, particularly on the conflict in Iran. He made the right call not to support the United States against Iran. And I think the history books will judge him correctly in that regard. But all those points that I've made about the positive case for this government, he's never built into a cohesive vision and narrative of what the government's doing.
Yeah.
And I contrast that when I was in government under Tony Blair, and every day, every week, Blair was explaining what we were doing, why we were doing it, and how we were doing it. And Keir hasn't come close to that.
No, you're right. Well, talking of the President of the United States, of course, earlier on today, some quite a big bit of news. The President did post on Truth Social. He said Keir Starmer will resign as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He failed badly on two very important subjects, immigration and energy. Brackets, open North Sea oil. I wish him well. President Donald Trump. I think that wish him well was maybe a little bit of an afterthought. Maybe someone said, come on, just be a little bit nice, because he is going now. Do you agree with Donald Trump? Do you agree that it's immigration and energy that let him down, Adam?
Yeah, what Bill says is the immigration figures can be fluffed. We've got to remember that 800,000 still come into this country last year. That is no positive. But we had so many leaving, with record numbers of Brits leaving, I believe, as well. So immigration numbers are sky high. But we're still having 800,000 people, many from cultures far different from our own. And then we've got people that are very similar culturally leaving.
Yeah.
So what's happening? We're being replaced. And so I'm not going to celebrate that at all. Energy-wise, Ed Miliband, for me, is a green communist. Like, he's a nutcase in that world, net zero. So, no, I can't celebrate that. I can't say that they've done anything good. Our bills are still higher than July 2024. So how have they achieved anything? All the promises they made pre-election, your bills are coming down, £300 off that, they were lies. So you cannot celebrate. Bill, they didn't cut our bills, mate. They're still higher than 24.
In the
Don't
last
shake your head.
budget, 130 quid was taken off people's energy bills.
They're still higher than July 2024.
That's a little bit unfair, Bill, because you know that tax was moved elsewhere. It was the stealth tax. It was a stealth tax. But where was it moved to? Was it moved? I can't remember which other.
But the reality was, it did cut people's energy bills.
Well, yeah, but you can't take from somewhere else and add it onto someone else's a different part of the bill and say you're reducing energy bills that way. I think people would.
Did your bill go down by 130 quid a year?
Yes, it did. My bills went up elsewhere.
And we live in a global
no, I'm not
economy and a global oil.
I'm not disputing that.
Market.
I'm just disputing it when the government say they brought the bills down. Technically, they did, but they didn't do it by actually improving energy supply and making it cheaper for people. They just took off the net zero stuff and moved it elsewhere.
Even if you started drilling for oil and gas all the way across the North Sea with new plants, it wouldn't do one iota to reduce energy bills. And, you know, the virtue of net zero is it's about energy security and it brings prices down because renewables are much, much cheaper.
Where I would disagree with Donald
fuels.
Trump on this is that he's only named two things that brought Keir Starmer down.
What are the others?
I actually think the most important thing that's brought Keir Starmer down is he was elected on a promise of a change of government. And I think for most people, what government actually means translates into the economy. Do you feel like you are getting richer or poorer over the span of a government? And I think for most people in Britain, they would answer that question by saying, I feel that not only am I worse off, but I am afraid that in the future I will be even more worse off than I am now. And I think that is where Labour has really failed. It has handed out money to certain groups in society. Some people are better off. So if you're a public sector worker, you're probably slightly better off. If you're someone who's claiming benefits, you might actually be slightly better off. But if you are any other section of people in society, you will be feeling the pinch. And it's not just because of things that are out of Starmer's control. He can't control what's happening in Iran. He can't control what's happening in Ukraine. We're not a powerful country anymore. We don't get to set the stage geopolitically. But he can control things like where does his Chancellor raise taxes? Where does she decide to cut things from? Where does he decide to invest money in? Does he decide to cut welfare to put that money into infrastructure spending? These are the difficult decisions that Labour governments used to be able to make that were not made under Keir Starmer. He was essentially paralysed from almost his third month in government. He was not able to make those difficult decisions. And I think that is ultimately what has brought him down.
Yeah, I recognise there's a real perception around cost of living. The reality is that for the first time in a generation, average wages have risen faster than prices. So technically, people are a bit better off, and that was before what happened in Iran. But the point I do agree with you on is on some of the difficult issues where you need a Prime Minister to be intervening, knocking heads together, coming to a conclusion and then communicating it, Keir has